A major new study by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences examined if requiring an ID to vote produced an electoral benefit for Republican candidates and/or penalized Democrats. Because many have suggested that Republicans just want it for electoral advantage. They examined both state and federal elections dating all the way back to 2003, went up to 2020, and the initial finding may come as a surprise. They found the voter ID laws implemented produced a Democratic advantage. A Democratic advantage. Now, they say this advantage weakened to near zero by the 2012 election cycle, but even after that, the report concludes that voter ID requirements motivate and mobilize supporters of both parties, ultimately mitigating their anticipated effects on election results. In other words, they found that while an ID requirement might generate very real anger among Democrats and even potential enthusiasm among Republicans, it motivated both parties to come out, get their IDs are required, and vote. And isn't that what both parties always claim to want? We know Americans certainly favor the idea. A Monmouth University poll last year shows overwhelming support for showing photo ID at the polls. 80% of Americans say they think it's a good idea compared to 18% who oppose. And according to a Gallup poll last year, requiring photo ID to vote is favored by 77% of people of color and 80% of white adults. This could explain why more states are adopting these laws. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures, these 35 states currently require a photo or non-photo ID for voting. 10 other states ask for photo ID with other ways to vote for those who can't show one, like providing a signature to be matched up against information on file. What's not in dispute is that certain minorities, more often, have no ID. But what is not proving to be true is that requiring IDs is somehow suppressing turnout from those groups. Think about Georgia, 2021. New law led to stricter ID requirements for absentee ballots, reduced the number of drop boxes where voters can return their ballots. They reduced hours for early voting. The outrage regarding the law was predictable.
The state of Georgia has just overnight passed a new law that really attacks a key tenet of American democracy. That is the right to vote for everyone equally.
Brian Kemp hastily and behind closed doors signed a law putting Georgia on an express train back to the Jim Crow era. Doesn't get much clearer who this law is designed to benefit and who it's designed to hurt.
President Biden joined in on the attack.
It is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic, what they're trying to do, and it cannot be sustained.
Now, I've long said they were fixing a problem that didn't exist with this law, but that the problem with it, from my perspective, didn't relate to voter IDs. And according to a poll by the University of Georgia, voters who participated in the 2022 midterms, everything went a heck of a lot better than the fearmongers would have had you believe. The poll asked, among other things, how they would rate their overall experience voting. Of the black voters surveyed, 0% said the experience was poor, 0%. 72.6%, meanwhile, nearly three-quarters of black voters asked, said their overall experience was excellent. And most importantly, when you compare turnout, voters in 2022 to previous elections, according to the Georgia Secretary of State, overall turnout was 56.9% of registered voters, which aligns with the turnout from the midterms 4 years ago. But this 56.9% included a record turnout from the black community in 2022. But my next guest takes some issue with the data and with some voter ID requirements. He's got some firsthand experience. Reverend James Woodall is the former president of the Georgia NAACP. After the 2000 presidential election, the Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger appointed him to a bipartisan election task force, which he later quit, calling it ineffective. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. What am I getting wrong here?
Well, first, Dan, thank you for having me on the show. You know, when I think about the entirety of election law here in Georgia, and quite frankly, all over the country, I think the first thing you get wrong is the question you ask, and the question of which we surmise that voter ID itself isn't the issue. The issue is the administration of election law here altogether. And so we think about voter identification is not just the fact that, non-white people are less likely to have a ID, but they're also more likely to not have accurate information within their voter file, which is often being matched to ensure that the identification of the person who shows up on election day, whether it's early voting or not, is able to actually cast their ballot and ultimately ensure that their voices are heard. That is a significant burden in a number of ways, but coupled with the other laws that were implemented in Senate Bill 202, you have a situation where maybe people felt like the election was smooth and it was not as problematic as we've seen previously, but there are still issues. And I think part of the poll in which UGA was cited by you, one of the issues related to the poll is who was actually polled, and that data was not included in that release.
Okay. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.